Alright guys, welcome back to Precision Machine Shed. It's been a while, I must tell you. So today what we got is this old Harrison. I think the last video I actually did was probably this thing pre-rebuild. So what I'm going to do is go over this thing a little bit about what I did. A lot of you wanted to know what I paid for it, what I got into it, and I can give you an approximate value of what it's worth now, but this just gives you an idea if you wanted to go buy a used machine, have it rebuilt, what you're going to get out of it, what it's worth, all that good stuff. So this again is my Harrison mid-70s-ish, I think it's 77, 76, M300 13x40 metal lathe. This machine is 3-phase, 220 volt. It's set up basically the way it was, exactly how I got it, when I got it. I haven't changed anything on it, other than what we did was I had it sent off over to Rick, over at A&D Tool and Machinery Building in Roberts, Wisconsin. He reground this guy for me. He actually said it was, I think it was like 21 thousandths off or something, wear in the bed, which this has flame hardened ways. And the way the saddle's set up, you couldn't really even tell that it had that wear on it unless you actually measured it, and he measured it. And so what they ended up doing is they reground it and re-scraped. They did the cross feed and the compound for me, and they set up the tailstock, and they just kind of gave it a good once over, made sure everything was in good shape, and then sent it back to me. And that's where I ended up repainting it. And on top of that, I fixed a few little things here and there. Wasn't much that needed done to it, but here it is. So we'll kind of go over it a little bit, and I'll show you this machine, and it's running now. And this is my main gunsmithing lathe now for my other business, Apex Custom Rifles. And this is a nice machine, and I'll go a little over why I decided to rebuild a machine versus buy a new one. Alright, a lot of you guys that have seen my videos in the past know that I have rebuilt and redone a few lathes in the past and a few machines. The reason I redid this one is I had a few thoughts in mind. So this is an old machine. It's obviously got wear here and there on it, but the actual wear surfaces on it are all redone. They reground everything, and the actual fit and finish of this thing now is in phenomenal condition. Of course, being it's an old machine, there is a little bit of gear wear in there. The spindle on this machine is still really tight. There's only two 10,000ths run out on this thing, and they have really nice high precision bearings in this machine. A machine like this from, say, Precision Matthews, I think the going rate for them is about 10,000, or not 10,000, 7,000 to 8,000, something like that. A little more if you want like the Precision tool room lathe. They might be a little more than that yet. I don't know. I haven't looked lately, but that's basic. You're getting a similar machine here. Harrison was actually, I don't know if they were bought out or if they went into cahoots with. I think Klossing bought them out, but Klossing now builds these machines. They're, of course, an updated machine, but the basic layout of this machine on the new Klossing 13-inch lathes are basically the same. The knobs are a little different, but all the layout and everything is the same. The base is a little different, but it's pretty much the exact same machine. And that one, last time I checked, just for a bare bone strip down Klossing 13x40 is about $16,000. So that's where I come back to the point to where this is an old machine. It's been rebuilt. It works phenomenal for what I want to do it. I turned a 25-inch barrel on it just a couple days ago, and I got across 25 inches between centers. I got in 1.5 thousandths difference from one end to the other. So that's pretty good across 2 feet, 1.5 thousandths. So I originally picked this machine up used. It was on Facebook Marketplace, I believe, for the grand old price of $1,000. And the guy that had it actually sat in his shop, unheated garage. It was barely a garage. It was wet and moist, and this thing got a little rusty toasty. And as you can see, if you look close enough there, on the lead screw and the feed screw and the transfer bar for the shutoff, they're a little rusty yet. Haven't gotten around to cleaning those. But this machine was in pretty tough shape when I got it, but it was still functional and the headstock was in good shape. If you remember the last video I did, we talked a little bit about evaluating machine without looking at it, and this was the machine that I used for that. And since then I figured out what the problem was. I had a loose wire in the control panel. So like I mentioned before, this area, the compound and the top of the cross slide have all been surface ground over at A&D Tool Machinery Building, and this thing looks really nice now. On top of, I believe they have a surface grinder that they can surface grind these ways. I believe he ground the V-ways. I don't know. If you want to know how he does it, you ask him, but it turned out really well, and this thing it's really nice looking as far as that. And then when I got it back, of course, I had to paint it. I wasn't going to, but my wife of all people said, why don't you paint that thing, make it look nice. So I don't enjoy painting machines, but I painted this one, and it's been holding up pretty good so far. I've been using this thing, what's it been, 2-3 months now? I've done several barrels on it, and it's worked out great so far. One of the nice features of this machine is that it will do metric and standard threads pretty much with the same gears. There is one change gear, I believe, with this machine if you want to do some oddball, and I even got to look for it here. There's a 44 and an 88 gear. You change those two around. You basically swap them around, 44, 88, 44, 88. I think there's, is that it? I think that's it. So going from, so most of your standard threads, 56 through 16, are all 44, 8. So that's one setup. So this is where I leave it most of the time. It's set up that way now. And the way it's set up now with this configuration with that gear, I can do everything from 0.75 to 0.75, and sorry, 0.2 to 3.5 metric. I'm not big on metric as far as using it on this machine. I use metric, but not haven't cut threads on this machine yet. And then if we want to switch those two gears around, then we get our really coarse gears, and then we get some really coarse, I'm assuming these are really coarse metric threads, 4 to 14. So that's one nice thing about this machine is you can do the vast majority of your imperial and metric threading without changing any gears, which is great. Some of the newer Grizzly machines even come with change gears that if you want to do some of these metric threads, you have to change a gear on it, which is kind of annoying. One of the few things that I had to replace on here is inside here there's a little boot. It's similar to like a CV joint boot inside there, or a knuckle boot. And it's just a little accordion boot that seals this oil reservoir up in here. And there's a guy over in the UK that makes these. I had one shipped from the UK and installed it, and it's been in there for a couple months now, and it hasn't leaked a drop. So I'm very happy with that part. I think it was like 20 some bucks US, which is a hell of a deal, worth the cost to fix that. And that's really about the only thing that I've actually fixed on this machine myself. Everything else it was in pretty good shape. Another nifty feature on this lathe is there's backlash adjustment with the crossfeed screw. I've never messed with it. There's about, I don't know, 15 thousandths backlash on there now. I'm not too worried about it. But if I ever needed to adjust it, there still should be some adjustment in there that I can adjust if need be. Alright, a few of the basics on this machine. It is a 13x40 D14 spindle chuck, Morse taper 5 I believe up front, and a Morse taper 3 on the tailstock. And outside of that, I mean, it's a metal lathe. Not much to look at, I guess. If you want to find an ungodly expensive tail or a steady rest, here's your guy. I did not have this part when I bought the machine. However, hours and hours of searching the internet, the vast, deep, endless internet, I actually found this steady rest. And it was marked as a 13-inch steady rest on eBay of all places. And it did not say that it was for a Clausing or a Harrison or anything else. But through the power of research, I actually photo matched this thing. Everything about this steady rest matched up with the Klossing or the Harrison 13-inch steady rest. And I got a few measurements off of it, and bada bang, here it is. This thing, I think new, if you go buy one from Klossing, they're like $1,200 or $1,300. I didn't pay anywhere near that, but I found one and I actually used it the other day. So these are kind of an invaluable tool that I use, especially when you're doing gunsmithing type work and all sorts of other stuff. You guys that have used them know that they're useful from time to time. Nice thing to have. One more cool little bonus on this guy when I got it. It has a travel dial, and it's actually set up. I don't know if you can see it there, but it functions and it works properly the way it's supposed to. And my little dial turns. When I got this thing, it was cloudy. You couldn't see through it. So actually, of all things that I used, headlight lens cleaner, I sanded it and polished it and sanded it with like 1500, 2000 grit sandpaper. And I got that thing actually to where it's not perfect, but it's usable for sure. I could probably clean it up a little more, but it works just great where it is. And I actually use this till I get a DRO for this guy, and that works great. And of course, my little threading dial hiding back there. All right, so you're probably sitting in there wondering, what do I have into this machine? You had to have paid a king's ransom to get that thing rebuilt. And truth of the matter is, after buying this thing and having it rebuilt, I still have less into it than I would have paid for a brand new Precision Matthews or Grizzly for sure. So yeah, I paid about 5,000 bucks to have this thing totally reground, rescraped. The bed has been reground, hasn't been rescraped because it's a hardened bed, so there's no need to scrape it. Turkite on the bottom of the saddle. Compound and cross slide has been refitted, rescraped, along with the tailstock. And then I think he double checked the headstock, but I think for the most part those pretty much stay in line. I don't know, don't quote me. And he totally tore it apart and cleaned it for me, if nothing else. He cleaned it. So it was ready to paint almost the day it came back here. So all said and done, I got 6,000 bucks into this thing. And if you think about it, I sold my Klossing lathe for not too much less than that. So I really came out almost even on this deal after selling my old 6913 Klossing, my 14x48. And then I spent about, I don't know, it was like 425 I think on that steady rest back there. So, you know, about 6,500 bucks I got in this thing, and then painting it. And so you're thinking, well, 6,500 bucks, I can just go buy a new one. Yeah, you could, but a machine like this brand new, 16,000. Is it a brand new machine? No, of course not. But it holds tolerances now like no other. It works just like a new machine, and I think I got every penny's worth out of what I spent on this thing. Going back, that Klossing 6913, that was a nice machine. It was big, it was long, the long bed was nice, but it was a little noisy. It had wear on it. It was an old machine again, hadn't been rebuilt. It was still in good shape, but there were things about it I didn't like. I couldn't do metric, I couldn't do a few other things. The variable speed was always nice, but just going to this machine, it's just a much nicer machine, and there's a lot more that I can do with this machine that I couldn't do with my other one, especially when I do my gun work, my barrels, my receivers and stuff like that. Metric threading is a big part of that. So that's one of the big reasons why I moved to this machine specifically versus keeping my old one. And then I just didn't want a Grizzly. I didn't want a Precision Matthews. And so here I got my Harrison M300. At this point, I suppose we should fire this thing up. And of course, I've got my rotary phase converter. It's in this same room right next to my lathe. I haven't moved it yet. It's going to be moved in the future, but the phase converter gets a tad bit noisy. Warn you, here we go. There you go. All right, so once you drown the noise of the phase converter out, let me kick it. Not any better. So again, I got long sleeves on, but I'm not running the thing, I'm just turning it on. We're showing you here. whine to it, but not bad. I mean, like I said, it's got a little bit of gear wear in certain gears. It's got a brake on it, which is nice. I'll crank it up to 2500, so that's the high speed it goes. And then crank it down to like 540. So it's relatively quiet. Much quieter than my old flossing, that's for sure. Get down to slow speeds, of course, and it gets really quiet. Longitudinal, cross, in the middle nothing, half nut, pretty standard stuff, although I don't have the half nut on, engaged. One of these days I'll figure this thing out, so half nut. I'm going to show you a nifty feature about this lathe that a lot of other lathes like this don't have. Alright, so here's a cool feature about this machine that you may or may not know. And I'm going to struggle to do this because there is some wear in this part and it's not used to doing this. It doesn't like doing this anymore, but we'll show you the trick that it'll do if I can make it do it. Turn the machine on, of course, and if we engage, let's make sure we engage the right one. And that's that. Alright, so there's our longitudinal feed that is turning. And the way this thing is designed, you're supposed to be able to pull it out, engage, and our carriage is moving, and this is freewheeling. So this is like a neutral on this thing, and they're made to do that. Of course, a lot of these old machines, they never use this, so the one ring on the detent in there gets worn, and it gets a little more difficult to use. I'll pop it back in here. And now we're engaged there. So the idea behind this, of course, is if you're just making a bunch of longitudinal cuts on this thing, there's no reason for this thing to be spinning, so they freewheel it, and it's like a neutral on a clutch. So it's kind of a nifty feature to this machine. Alright guys, there you go. There's my, I was going to say clothing. There's my Harrison M300 13x40 and kind of everything behind it. Like I said, I'm very happy with this thing. It's worked out great so far, and of course I got a spider out here. I'm going to do some upgrades to this thing. I've already got, it came with the Aloris, it's a BXA tool post, wedge style, and I've got a few holders for it. I need way more, and I need way more cutters and holder, you know, all sorts of that fun stuff, but I'm going to hopefully in the near future get a true bore alignment system for this guy, because the headstock, it's not too bad, but it's still a little longer, and I think that's the ticket for this type of stuff. If you guys haven't checked out my other business, it's Apex Custom Rifles LLC. Find me on Facebook. Precision Machine Shed, of course. You guys know where to find me. You're here right now, so I got more of this stuff coming up. I've been busy the last 2 months building rifles. Went on an elk hunt. I got some horns back there. It worked. So that was fun. Spent a lot of time working out, getting in shape, all that good stuff. So it's been a very busy fall, and I hope to hopefully get more video and more content out for you guys. I'm going to start doing more gunsmithing stuff, but that is going to be geared towards Patreon, because of course we all know the lovely world we live in. Can't do what we used to do on YouTube anymore, so that's fine. We can work around that. So let me know what you want to see. I'm doing all sorts of fun stuff, a lot of precision rifle stuff, a lot of precision barrel making, not barrel making, but barrel machining, stuff like that. So if there's anything you guys want to see somewhere else, let me know. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this thing. Let me know your wild thoughts. And as always, hit the like button. It helps me out. Comment, subscribe with notifications, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.